All right, and we're live. Hopefully you guys can see me or hear me or whatever. I'm gonna go to screen share. Do we have a thumbs up on this? Yes, we do. Good stuff. All right. So I'm gonna talk about a quite complicated little issue that we have, and that is about creating an actual order. And I've written the code, so this demo will be slightly different than the other ones. I will talk about the code rather than write it during the presentation or the talk. So let's get started. Let's have a quick look on the feature file, because as we know, everything starts with a feature. And here I am. I created a user story that states that as a visitor, in order to get some tasty food, hopefully, I would like to be able to add products to an order. This story can, of course, be rewritten or improved upon, but it should go for now, right? So some of you guys have not seen this before, but in Cucumber, you can have something we refer to as background stories, which is an equivalent of the before block in RSpec, stuff that will happen before each scenario. So here I've added a background block, background step that is stating that some dishes or some products should exist in the database. And this might also be new to some of you. This is a data table that we use in Cucumber. The headers or in the data table must correspond to the attribute names that you have on your model in your database. In this case, we have name, price, and description. I've also added functionality to add categories to a product. So I have that here. If you guys don't have that, that doesn't matter. We just omit this column basically. And the step definition for this is quite interesting. I'm going to just talk really briefly about that. It makes use of this table object that it's a Cucumber table that can be transformed into hashes, and then we can iterate over that and store each hash in local variable that in this case I called product, and then I just can call product create and just pass that in as the value. We have those 4 attributes on it: name, price, description, and category, that will create an object for me, basically, right? So that's what I've did in this one. But again, this talk is not about background steps, so let's move on. All right. So I wrote a scenario where I say that where a user should click a button called order on a product and create an order in the database, basically. So we have a few steps that needs to happen. 2 steps that state what the interaction between the user and the application should be, and then 3 assertions on line 18, 19, and 20. So I want to visit the site, of course, because I want to go there, and I want to click order on a section of the site where we display the information about kebab, and kebab is something that I created up here, right? So in my scenario, I don't have to check for kebab being present or something, because we implicitly do that by clicking on a button that is supposed to be close to a instance, to where the information about the kebab dish is being displayed. And I will talk to you how I made that specific step pass. This first one is pretty bread and butter. It's just visiting a site, so that's a step definition that you already have in your application. But this one is more tricky. So, and I will talk to you about the way I I implemented this code so that this step definition can pass. All right, and the 3 assertions here are kind of interesting, because I'm saying that then there should be an order created for me, and the order should contain kebab, right? So it's a composite. We are it's a 2-step definitions that are tightly coupled to each other, and then we are also checking on the interface that there should be a message showing that kebab was added to your order, right? So this is an interface step, and these two steps are actually going to check the database and see if there is an order created for me. And without prolonging this discussion, there are different philosophies on what should be tested or not tested during acceptance tests. I would say that tapping into a database and making sure that there is a new object created for me is like a corner case. I did this now. Usually, we just want to check the interface and not the technical, the underlying technology that is powering the application. But I will not dive into this. In this case, I think these three assertions are justified and make our test viable. All right. So let's take a look at this step definition. I click order on kebab. So basically, without having a lo-fi to fall back on, I just made a decision that on my website I want to see. I want to group my products by category, so I do that, and then I want to display an order button on connected to each product that I'm displaying. Let me just show you how that looks like without CSS, without styling, right? So just by saying, just show me the page, show me the page, and I can run this and see if we can get this displayed somehow. I'm 5 minutes in, so I'm trying to keep this below 30 minutes, people. Right. So here's my site. I have these things grouped, but I don't display the category name so far. But the interesting thing here is that we have a pizza and a description, and then I have an order button. All right, for each one of them. Good. So let's go back to what the fuck is this? Not needed. Not needed. All right. So let's have a look at the step definition. Okay. So let me get myself out of the way so we can see better. Okay, and I click on something. So I make this dynamic because I prefer it this way, basically, on the product name, right? So I have two variables, one called element, and the second one is product name. The first thing I do here on line 2 is to search in my database. Can I find a product with that name? So find by name, product name, returns that object to me. And I'm storing it in a variable. And note that I'm using an instance variable and not a local variable. Okay? And that is a huge, huge difference, because the local variables we know are just accessible in and live in a very limited scope in that particular method, or in this case, step definition, while instance variable can be passed across methods. So I will reuse that product later on in another step, basically. So that is very important. And then I'm using a within method, which is a capybara method. And I say that within a specific div or element on my page, I want to do something. I want to click on the link or button, which in this case is order. But I don't. You saw that I have 3 different order buttons on my page, right? So we want to know which one are we gonna click on, because otherwise we get an ambiguous match from Cucumber. So that's why we are scoping it down with the within command. And as you know, very similar to JavaScript and some other scripting languages, we identify the ID of the tag with this hash sign. Okay, so that's going to look for whatever element is having the ID of product dash and then a number, right? So here where I'm injecting a unique number. And how can I inject a unique number? Well, I know that the only thing that is unique on my product is the ID, right? It's a unique identifier, the primary key. Are we on board with that? Each instance of in your database has a unique identifier. We can have 2 pizzas in our database, but even if we have 2 pizzas, they will have different IDs, right? Okay, so within whatever tag exists on my page that has the ID of product dash 2 or product dash 3 or stuff like that, I will click on the button that exists in that specific section of the page. And I know it's much, but that's the way we need to do this, because otherwise we will not be able to find that specific button. And now let's hold off for now about the step definition, and I will show you what the implementation on my page looks like, because it's very important. So we go to the welcome page where we have those tags, and we are displaying the product. And here you see, never mind these categories and product and stuff, because that's outside of the scope of this talk, but here is the relevant line of code. We're opening up a div, and we're giving this div an ID, and the ID is product dash, and then I'm injecting the product ID, right? So it corresponds well to what I'm looking for in the step definition, right? So, and then inside of that div that ends here, right? This is the entire div. I am, just as we did before, displaying the product name, product price, and product description, right? But the big change here is that I am also creating a form that will post a request to a route that I created that is called order create. It's a method post. I have my submit button with the word order in it, right? So that's the order button. And this one is important, right? This one is actually sending off the ID of that particular product that this form belongs to, that we want to order, in a hidden field. So we don't show it on the website, but it's there in the form. And we are using an input type hidden. That's important. We give it a name called product ID, and we give it a value, and the value is unique per each product, because we're injecting Ruby and just storing that ID number. Does that make sense? Right. So for every iteration, it depends on how many products we have. In this case, we have 3 products, so this will be looping 3 times, and this header 1 will be displayed, and then the product description will be displayed, and then a form will be rendered on the page, and the order button will be visible. All right, and everything will be contained in a div with a unique ID, and that ID needs to be unique, and that's why we use that primary key, this unique identifier, so that we never end up in a situation where this div has the same ID as any other. These IDs needs to be unique. All right. Okay. So what happens when we click on this order button is that we are taking to the controller, right? So let me just show you how I've done it. I could have created this in the same controller that we had before, but I just created a new one. And note that the class name is the same as we have in the environment RB and in the auth RB file. And I only extend that with this specific route that I created. And here comes the tricky part. So this is complicated, but then again, if this was easy, we would probably not do this. All right. Okay. So we have this post order create route, right? Which is what this form that I was just talking about will post to. Okay. And we know that there is a param called product ID. Well, I know it because I gave this input, this hidden field, a name of product ID. Okay, so that will correspond to the param. It will have a key named this way, right? So I know that, meaning that I can create a new variable and check the database for that specific product ID. So for a specific product with this product ID, right? So I'm just I'm using the find method, basically. Then this is quite tricky. Then I either create a new order, okay, or so either I create a new order and store that order ID in a session variable, like I do here, or if the session variable is already set, I reuse that specific order. So in this case, order ID for the first time will be stored to 1, and if that variable, if that key is being set, I'm checking my database for that specific order. And remember about this request response architecture. Once our server has responded with something, it forgets all the values and everything is rendered for us. So we need to find a way to store data in between requests. And one way of doing that are using cookies, and the other one is using sessions. And sessions and cookies are basically, they are very similar to each other, but they're slightly different. In this case, we're using a session setting. So we are storing the order ID in a session cookie kind of thing, and so we can reuse that if we would like to add more dishes to our order. Then we don't want to create several orders, but rather one order with several dishes in it. And here comes the next tricky part, I would say, and that is that once this order is being set for us and stored in this order variable, which we set here, we want to create an order item, and that is this is also a complicated thing, or something that could be hard to grasp. But since we want to have one order with multiple products attached to it, right? We need to have an instance of an order with an association to many order items. And each order item, just to complicate things even further, needs to be associated to a product, because we need, so this, it's a form of a joint table. We need each product to be able to be ordered several times by several people, right? So we don't want to remove a product from the product database just because it's been ordered, right? So we need to have this relation. And I will show you in RSpec how that is being built up and dealt with in Active Record. But for now, let's just say that we are creating an order item where we store the product that we created on line 3, assign that order item to the order that we created on line 5 or line 7. So in this way, we have an object in our database that is related both to the order we created and an order item and a product that we have in our database. Okay, and then finally we redirect back to the root path, and we give the user a notice that order item dot product dot name, which in my test case will be kebab, right, was added to your order. Okay, so that is working because my tests are passing. Okay, so there are some corner cases and exceptions and error handling. I didn't deal with that at the moment. Let's just use our last 13 minutes to take a look at how we actually build those objects and how we test them in RSpec. Okay, so let's jump down to the spec files and take a look at the order spec. Now, do not think about this code at all for now, because it's not relevant. I have not implemented any interface for that yet. The most important thing here is this, right? So just focus on that. These kind of tests is something that you already that you are already familiar with. It expects to have a DB column ID, and I added something called timestamps to it. So you'll have a look at that soon. Basically, what it does is it stores the date and time on when the object was created and also when it was updated. It's a active record functionality that comes for free with the library. I will show you how to implement that in a second. But the important thing here is that that the order is expected to have many order items. Okay, so this test is checking if there is a relationship between order and order items. And I will show you that in a second, how that works. And on the order item spec, I have 3 tests first. Actually 4 or 5. Let's see. To have to product, right, like this. Sorry. So first of all, we are just checking for the ID, and then we're checking the timestamps, when it was added, etc., etc. It's not really necessary, so you don't have to do this. But at the very least, we want the order item to have an ID, of course, and then we want to check if the order item belongs to an order and if it belongs to a product. And that is the joint table thing that we need for the to do, so we can access the information about what actually has been ordered. So we can. I'm going to show you the migrations, but before I do, I just want to go to the models and take a look at the order model. And again, do not think about this because it's not relevant for what we are talking about at the moment. The only important thing is this has many order items. Okay, this line of code creates the association between an instance of an order and many order items, and makes it possible for us to add several dishes or several products to this order. All right. And then if we look at the order item, it has 2 lines of code that are relevant. And the one is belongs to product, because we want each item to have a association, to have a relationship with a product in our database, so we can get that information. But also, of course, an association to an order, so that we can take a look on what order lines belongs to one specific order, and vice versa. All right. So if we take a look at the migrations, which is another step here, of course, we are creating an order here. I split this up in 3 different migrations. So you can't do it in one, but I just wanted, for demonstration purposes, split this up so it becomes at least a little easier for you guys to grasp. So the first migration is creating a table named orders, and the only attribute it adds for now is the timestamps. And timestamps is, as I said, an active record functionality that creates 2 columns, created at and updated at. All right. The second migration I have is to create a table of order items, and without notice that I did not add timestamps to it, but it actually creates timestamps anyway. So it's right there for me anyway. Just wanted to showcase that some of the functionality is actually built into Active Record, so you don't have to use that. Meaning that your users and your products also are stamped if you want that. Okay, and then finally, now I have orders and I have order items in my database, and I want to connect them together because I need to have those unique identifiers on the order items. And this is what I do here by saying add reference between order items and order using a foreign key. And also between order items and products using a foreign key. Okay, so now we have a connection between those three objects. They are interconnected together, so we can create various objects. All right. So in my specs, all stuff are kind of working. I don't have any failures, I think. Let's have a look. Perhaps I do. Our spec. I missed something here. Yes, I did mix. Yeah. All right. So I forgot about this. So one thing that I just said was not actually right. So I'm just gonna copy this code to this one. What? Sorry. There we go. Why are you doing this to me? It's weird. Huh. Create table. Right. And right. Why are you? Oh, do. Sorry. Hummus, please. Right. Okay. So I'm just gonna do rake db reset. And also I'm gonna I have 6 minutes left. I will prevail. I promise, guys. And I'm gonna use another command that I posted on Slack today. Like instead of doing rakenv equal test rake db migrate, you can do rake db test prepare, like I just did now. I think I posted it on Slack. So let's try that. And hopefully it works. It did. And now I can run rspec again. And that should work. Yes. Okay. So just to demonstrate certain things in our database, right? Let me just load the environment. Okay. So I have a product equals product last. Let's see. I think I only have one product in my database. That's nil. Why? All right. So we need to product create name. I can do something like this. Name pizza and price 50, like this, right? What? It can't be blank. Okay. Description, whatever, and category is a main course, like this. Right. So now I have a product. Okay. So let's say that I want to create an order. So we just do order equals order create. Right. So now we have an order and we see that it's timestamped, right? Because we can see when it was created and updated. Okay. And now we want to create an order item. And that order item it has a product, right? And we want to store the product that we just fetched from the first product that we have in our database. I only have one, so I can do product first, like this. And then it needs to be assigned to an order. So we just do order, and we stored our order in a variable name order. So we just do order, right? So in this way, we have like a connection between those two things. Okay. Order item for what? Oh, I forgot to say create. I'm sorry. Create. Sorry about that. Oh, now we have an order item created. And now, if I do check what the order is still the order that I had, but now I can do order.order items, right? And that will return a collection to me. You see an active record association collection proxy. Note those hard brackets. It means that it's an array, it's a collection. So if I want to get the first one, I just type first on it. That returns the actual order item. And still, there is not much relevant information here apart from the order ID and the product ID, right? But if I call product on it, that relationship between the order item and the product, I get the product that it has stored in it, which means that I can do product name and pizza will be returned, right? So I can chain those methods like this and actually get information about what I have ordered, right? And about that code that I told you was commented out, just a quick look at it. You see, I added a method called total, and that thing is doing certain things, basically iterating over each order item that this order has, and returns a total price, a sum of all the prices, which means that in this case I can do order.total, and that should return what, 50? Yes, because we set a price of 50. Now, if I would do create another order item, like, oh, of course, I forgot to say create again. Create like this. Now my order total should be 100, right? But it's not. Why not? Ooh. All right. Order items. It has 2 items in it, right? Count is 2, right? So if we just do order total, well, it is 100, but I have to refetch it from the database, basically. So you see that I can keep on adding order items to my order, and that's it, people. No time for questions. Right. Awesome. This code will be made available, recording, of course. Again, I thought I'd try a different approach where I actually talk about the implementation rather than write code. It's sometimes better to, well, both methods are equally good, I would say. All right. Thank you.
Excellent.